Welcome to another episode of the 1 Year No Beer podcast. I am your host, Rory Fairbairns, and today I'm joined by a special guest, an individual who decided to come on us with, well, quite an incredible journey. A journey that involves some self-discovery, some changes of habits, understanding themselves better, resetting the compass, changing the direction, maybe even trajectory of their lives. And that is joining us in the wonderful program that is Complete Control. Simon recently graduated from the Complete Control program, and today we're going to hear a bit more about his story, why he came and joined us on Complete Control, and more importantly, where he is now and what the future looks like for Simon. So, welcome to the show, Simon.
All right, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for being willing to share your story. So, why don't you give us a bit of background, Simon, and tell us a bit of backstory about who you are and why you wanted to come on Complete Control?
Yeah, thanks. So my name's Simon. I'm 43 years old. I work in the technology industry. I've been in and around technology now for about 20 or so years. I sought out Complete Control, having done the 1 Year No Beer course back in 2017, and kind of throughout my life I've always strived for to work towards personal excellence and striving to be that best version of myself. And this topic of alcohol has always been been in and around me, as it has around a lot of people. And I came into the course to try to lift the lid on how to be, the optimal version of myself. That's what brought me into the course. So, yeah,
I love it. So, give us a bit of background. Like, what has your relationship with alcohol been like?
I think, if we go right back to day one, I always consider my life in 10-year blocks. So if I look at it from kind of 0 to 10 years old, it's not really a factor. I was obviously coming to the world. Alcohol was, a fairly big part of my family, generally speaking. I mean, not to a huge extent, but it was certainly a factor. And so I grew up around alcohol, with it being present. I think if I look at 10 to 20, you enter your teenage years, you start being a little bit more rebellious with your friends and start going out and about, and maybe doing a little bit of drinking in the park, and not doing the silly things you do when you're younger. Wasn't really until sort of college and university that you really get into the kind of the full flight kind of party scene, if you will. And I think for me, I'm a graduate of a legal graduate at my university days, as with a lot of my old stable mates, bit of a drinking culture attached to the university days. And I work in the executive recruitment. My industry is also renowned for having quite a healthy drinking culture, so we say, as well. And I think for me, it was, I don't really thought I had any real issue with it as such, but I had an awareness that it was definitely holding me back in certain areas of my life. And I think it kind of came to a head. I think really as we came into the pandemic, when I was, the world goes into lockdown and I was working remotely, it became a little bit more of a factor there. And I decided to take the action to, look into this topic to try to become, that optimal version of myself. That's kind of a high level for you. That's
amazing. I think a lot of people will resonate with that part of that story of drinking culture and everything else. So, absolutely, this is the real messaging we're saying to people about optimal health, peak performance, that and regularly consuming alcohol cannot coexist. So I love that. But was there, as you've gone through the years, perfectly normalized, you probably weren't thinking about not drinking in your 20s, right? You probably were just thinking about how could you find more time to party and consume alcohol. So there must have been some things that were going on over that time. And, we speak to people all the time, and then really that can be over decades, right? Decades of feeling hangovers, or decades of feeling these things, and kind of. So yeah, did you have any? How was alcohol showing up negatively for you before that made you want to think about changing it?
I think for me it was exactly as you say there. It kind of evolved over decades, really. I think for me personally, I found it that life became gradually more and more complex the older I got. right? So you finish university, you go into the workplace, you develop a career, and that's great. And then you add, a relationship, and then you add, a child, and then you add going self-employed, and then you add taking on some ventures, and you put more and more on your plate. And I found for me, with alcohol being part of that full plate, if you will, it just became more and more difficult to keep everything on track. Trying to be a good parent, trying to be a good partner, trying to be successful in my career, trying to keep in good shape, and trying to be a good human being. It was it became progressively more and more difficult over time to be able to consistently do that. And I think for me, a couple of milestone events in my life, a separation, a career change, a move to a different country, they were quite sizable changes in my life. And again, I think those were some major factors that really kind of exacerbated this whole point around the more that time goes on, the less of a place that alcohol had in my life. So I think in short, it was a general progression as I climbed the mountain. It seems to be the weight of the bag was getting heavier and heavier, and you have to leave a few things on a ledge now and again. And I chose to leave the alcohol on one of the ledges. That's
Good man. I think there's, just in reflecting into that, a lot of people will be along that journey somewhere. I mean, most people are along that journey somewhere. And a lot of people, certainly people who I speak to, they're waiting for their hand to be forced, for something to happen or somebody to tell them that they can't anymore or anything else. And a lot of people are sitting in this cycle of trying to stop, not stopping, or being caught in between taking a break and not. And I think that's what we're trying to do here with Complete Control, is change the conversation there to try and help people accelerate this journey, to really understand the core drivers that are there, and help prevent some of this yo-yoing around. But that's not how it started for you. You originally signed up to one of our challenges, which have been the bread and butter of One Year No Beer for many years. So in 2017, did you say? What made you sign up to the challenge then?
Yeah, so I think for me, if I zoom out a little bit and if I look back 10 years, I mean, I've always been one of the dry January brigade. And, I think you always think it's I'm not huge on New Year's resolutions as such, but I do think it's a nice way to start the year, doing a month off of it. And so I've been doing that for a number of years, and that had worked very well. And it was kind of a bit of a running joke. It's the January detox and the February retox. And it's like, it made me kind of over time think, all right, well, what is this yo-yo cycle all about? And so I came across One Year No Beer, and it was, it was the 30 days, the 90 days, and the year. So I went for the 90 days to just try to extend that period while I was trying to figure out, what do I want my relationship to be with it? And so I did the 90 days. I did that a few times, and that was super helpful. But I found I'd keep slipping back into the old ways. And I don't think people talk about threshold moments, like these big events that happen due to alcohol. I was very fortunate in the sense I don't think I didn't have anything really drastic happen that kind of snapped me out of, I have to stop doing this. It was more a case of I'm just feeling suboptimal. So I thought, in 2022 I decided to do the year off of it. It was a big challenge. I thought, let's kind of do a Control-Alt-Delete on this thing, and let's just kind of restart and go again. So I thought, a good challenge. I've done the year. I've done the done the month a number of times. Done 90 days, a good few times, and then did the year, and that was great. Went into it with real focus, clarity, and intention, and had a great year. And then kind of slipped back into the old ways a little bit, which is what it really confused me. I just didn't understand how that can happen. And I like to think I'm of reasonable intelligence, and I just had no understanding as to, how does this thing keep coming and getting me by the ankle and pulling me down again? And that's why I signed for the Complete Control course. So,
yes, that is something. I mean, I do feel mild regret. Obviously, I think helping people to take a break from alcohol is a brilliant thing to do. and the challenges have been helpful with that. But I think, like you, there's many, many, many people out there who take 90 days, take a year off, and then they find out that their relationship with alcohol creeps back again. And I think that pours into exactly why we created Complete Control. It's like, we've got to address these underlying things. We have to change these factors that are driving it. Otherwise, it's, you're either going to be holding on to your abstinence, so in recovery, or holding on to your abstinence for dear life. Maybe not necessarily just the term in recovery, but, using willpower. Or you are going to turn into something else. There'll be something else required to numb. So I think that's what I wanted to try and fundamentally change in creating it. So what was it about Complete Control that attracted you in the first place? What was it that made you think, you've done challenges with us before. If I could be harsh, I would say, if somebody outside there was listening, they were like, well, they did your challenges before, but it didn't work because this drinking came back. So I could be critical and say that. Why did you think, what was it that made you want to come and do this?
I think for me, it was a journey of discovery for me. I was confused as to how this whole thing became a part of my life and how it was having an impact. So, for me, I was able to, if I decide I'm not going to do it, I just don't do it. And it's pretty simple. But then I find, you get caught up in social situations, and, for me, it was trying to figure out how to be how to act with some integrity. It was, I don't want to do this thing because I feel like it's not doing me any good, but I keep ending up in situations for whatever reason, social situation, work situation, whatever it might be. I keep getting just dragged back down into the weeds again. So I came into this wanting to understand what the roots of this thing is all about, this topic of alcohol. So, I'm a academic lawyer, father's a precision engineer. I'm interested in how stuff works. And so I thought this to me was the opportunity to learn how all of this works. So it's almost like, it was like lifting the lid on, well, why do you do it? Okay. And it pulled together a lot of different pieces of information and subject matter. So you're talking about habit and behavior and drives, and there's what are the factors around why you'd pick up a drink, for example. And so I came into it, to answer your question, I came into it to try to deepen my level of understanding as to why this thing is a factor and how does it work in practice, and trying to reshape that. It's the dichotomy between abstinence, moderation, and being in control of it, and actually being, genuinely impartial as to whether or not you want to have a drink or not. And that is, as it says on the title of the course, is the control part of it. And I personally think that, can be fairly pig-headed, and I can soldier through quite a lot. And I think a lot of us can white knuckle it, but I don't really want to white knuckle the rest of my life. And so I just wanted to really explore this topic and kind of answer some of those questions. And that's what I was able to do on that journey.
Amazing. Well, then tell me a bit about your experience. What's it like I know, because I spent all day or lots of days telling people about the program from a sales and marketing perspective and things like that. But yeah, let's hear it from your side. What was Complete Control like?
It was really helpful. So, I'd reached a pivotal stage in my life. If I roll back sort of three or so months back, moved to a different country, starting a much more senior position. I felt like I had a very unique and very genuine opportunity in front of me, and I wanted to show up as, I'm coming into an environment where I'm the most junior person in the room, and I want to be enabled for success, and I want to be the optimal version of myself because I'm very clear on some of the things that I want to achieve. So I came into the course to enable me to do that. I took a step back and I had a look at my life kind of very holistically, and it sounds a little bit philosophical, but I did kind of zoom out and just look at, if there's anything holding you back. I'm a Jordan Peterson fan, so, look at the one thing in your life that is really holding you back, and what could you change? What's the one thing that you could change? And I landed on the decision that if I could change my relationship with this thing called alcohol, I think that would be that would be a really, really positive move. And and that's what the course enabled me to do. So to answer your question, how did I find it? I found it very enlightening. It was very effective in being able to kind of pull together kind of silos of knowledge, I think. So, I think if you look at, read a lot around, habit, Charles Duhigg's work. I'd read a lot around direction in life, Jordan Peterson's work. I've done a lot around discipline and focus, the Jocko Willink stuff, and, and how to be the best version of yourself in the context of business. What this enabled me to do was to be able to look at your habits and how they're shaped, to be able to look at your drivers, where you're trying to get to, and to understand why you're getting there, why you want to get there, and then to help you to create that roadmap to enable you to get there, but then also to give you the confidence and the clarity and the integrity to be able to ultimately get to where you want to go. And it was a case of letting go of some limited beliefs that I'd been harboring for some time. I was very much I'm an all or nothing person, and I thought it was quite interesting because I was challenged on that point by some of the coaches, and so one of my revelation moments where there is something between all or nothing. So that's kind of, you might want to challenge that a little bit. And
an important thing to challenge.
That's exactly. And precisely to your point, I'm a classic ENTJ, and I'm a go get it, knock the door down, that sort of person. So it was, I found it very enlightening and quite humbling, actually, to be able to go, I thought I knew a lot of this stuff, and I think I do know a lot of this, or did know a lot of it conceptually, but it was then applying the concepts that and then putting it into practice, but then doing it sequentially and layering day over day and week over week. It was like, I don't know, it's like taking a chalk slate and just wiping it off, and you can just see everything a little bit clearer again. And it's like, it's not that it wasn't there before, but it just gave a little bit, it was like enhancing the contrast a little bit. The colors got a little bit brighter, the clarity got a little bit, the fog lifted a little bit. And so I found, going through the 8 weeks, day over day and week over week, my clarity just began to increase and improve. And it got to the point where I wasn't then prepared to sacrifice that clarity. And then when I learned some of the, if you look at some, I'm not bad mouthing alcohol here. I think there's a time and a place for it, and it depends upon the person. But, for me, it had such a disruptive effect on my sleep, which had a real negative impact on my general view of the world. And, I just was not prepared to, sacrifice, 13 to 14 nights to reset my sleep pattern for, a few hours of immediate gratification. So it's not to say that there isn't a time and a place to go and have a few drinks. I'm not anti-alcohol. I don't feel the desire or the need or the want to do it right now. I'm not saying never, and never's a long time, but it put me in a position where I was able to be very at peace with that feeling of I genuinely am impartial to this thing, and that's where I wanted to get to, and I think that was what I learned on that during that journey of discovery for me personally.
Amazing. I think we hear it a lot. We hear a lot of people. I mean, I've got an audio note from a guy. He's like, I've stopped drinking, I don't know, countless times, and every single time it's been effort and thinking and counting down days and wrestling in the head. And now I just don't. It's not there. It's like there's just no. It's not taking any cognitive load, and that's really what we want for people, right? Is to remove all that cognitive loads and those associations.
Sorry, I was going to say to you, to the point there, it genuinely does feel like somebody's lifted that millstone off of your neck, and I don't say that lightheartedly. I genuinely, if anybody's listening to this, I'm sure everybody can relate to the Monday morning of, oh, here we go again. Why did I do it? I used to find myself going into almost a, kind of an internal civil war in terms of dialogue. You knew what was going to happen. You still chose to do it. Oh, I just became so tired of that whole narrative and that whole cycle. And for me, having completed being a graduate of the program, just being able to put that that weight down. I don't know if anybody rucks, but if you walk with a weighted vest and you're pushing really hard, you get that sense of relief when you take the vest off. It genuinely feels like that. It's like And it's just so liberating. It really is.
Love it. Love that analogy. Let's pause just for a brief moment. I just want to share with you some of the heartfelt feedback from our incredible Complete Control community members. Listen to this.
I don't know how I signed up. I think I just got an ad on Instagram and just got a whim, just hit the button and did a call and then signed up and didn't really consciously think much about it. And then after that, I was like, what did I just sign up for? Wait a second here. Like, far exceeded my expectations. I'm usually extremely skeptical, so I don't know how I even signed up in the first place, but whatever it was. So it's just amazing how like the transformation that I've seen, and even the drinking part is just kind of the it was the Achilles heel, but it's kind of just the superficial problem. And it's like, once I kind of clear that up, there's so much more possibility. And the exploration discussions with Gary, with Candace have just been so powerful, and they both kind of focus on a different area. And then with Glenn kind of looking at my data, and with my cohorts or classmates, or, it's just been everything has just been so powerful and kind of supportive of, completing the whole picture of how I do this. So just really grateful and also just feel more grateful, and not only just for all of you, but just in life in general. It's just a little bit more clarity and peace and calm and so forth. So
I am incredibly grateful for this entire program, everybody on this call, and everything that we were able to experience. I think that it delivered more than I expected. Honestly, I like I've said before, I've done a couple of like challenges and different things. And I think that this, beyond examining my relationship with alcohol and making, I think, pretty good strides in staying alcohol free. I think it taught me a ton about myself and how to like examine my habits and my thoughts and those kind of patterns and ways to approach the things that worried me the most in this experience have just been invaluable. I think I'm leaving feeling stronger in general, more self-aware in general, and just really more anchored in who I want to be and what my values are and how I can, take better steps to achieve those. So it's been fantastic for me. And then again, our team, I really appreciate all the feedback and support from every single person on this call, but my cohort as well. It's been great.
So I love everybody that I've met here. I have loved the program. I am not an emotional person like this, but this has changed my life. It has given me a life. And there's other things I need to do too. But I don't have to do alcohol anymore. So thank you.
It's been an amazing journey, and I appreciate the professionalism. Whenever I feel the stress, there's something that I can go back to everybody, and the sharing from everybody and the professionalism of the program. So I loved it, and I've grown a lot. So lots and kisses.
One word is transformational. That's a word that's been bandied about for decades, but in this, it is absolutely accurate. If I was to use one word, this was a great investment. It's not self-help, it's self-realization. It's super powerful, but it exceeded my expectations. Or maybe it was Sharon who said that, or maybe I'm exceeding my expectations, and I like that.
The program has been I'm hugely grateful for the program. I think the journey for myself has been amazing. I mean, I remember telling, I don't know if it was Candace or Gary, the first 3 or 4 weeks of the program, I was like, I can't stop thinking about not drinking. It's in my head. Every day I'm thinking about not drinking. And it's like now I'm not even thinking about it. It's just like my life has sort of stepped on. I'm excited about the future. Things are looking good.
I just love sharing the things people are saying about our Complete Control program. Okay, let's get back into the episode. If you don't mind sharing something because this is often a core part of it. What we try and help people understand is there's lots of elements in our relationship with alcohol, right? There's self-sabotage in there. People actually use alcohol as a way to keep themselves down because of past experiences and beliefs, and I'm not worthy and I'm never going to be good enough. And so they're striving incredibly hard in their careers and in their businesses, and yet they're doing this behavior, which is literally self-sabotaging. It's affecting their business, affecting their lives. And when you take it out the full length of that, people who get to a very serious place, they're literally destroying themselves. They're choosing to do that, even though that's not what they consciously want. It's kind of come from this subconscious part. So in the own work here, which, we talk about working on trauma, and you don't necessarily need to go into detail about the things that you discovered from the trauma work, because obviously that's private. But did you discover anything that you'd be willing to share that's, maybe from that sort of element of thing where you were self-sabotaging or blocks, or did you have any big realizations during the program?
Yeah, I think if we consider it and keep it very, very high level, on the trauma front, I'd like to kind of just if I describe it as there was maybe a few things in the basement, a few experiences in earlier life that might have had an impact and may negatively shape how you view the world, for example, in certain aspects, not in anything too shockingly, but I think little things like the self-sabotage thing is, it's a sense of self-worth, and that's a whole other podcast on, where does self-worth come from? But I think ultimately it's shaped by, earlier experiences. I think between the ages of 0 and 7, as your frontal cortex is developing, you have a very literal interpretation of the world that you see. And, if anybody's a fan or a student of Stephen Peters or the chimp management team, then, they'll talk about the goblins and the gremlins that are in the computer that the chimp puts in there. And I think there was definitely a little bit of that there as well to unpack. And, self-sabotage, I think there was definitely an element of that, which was, somebody asked me once, we talk about, the fear of failure is a big thing in business. And then if you come at it from another angle, it's like, what do you fear success? And then that was like, oh, okay. So that opened a very broad and subjective question. But yeah, to your point, there was definitely some earlier experiences that weren't insignificant as well. Is all I say, that had given maybe a negative perspective on some things, and it just needed just a little bit of reflection and contemplation, and a kind of a reframing of your view on how these things work. And it's then enabling them in a positive manner to then take you forward. So to your point, I think that there was an element of that, and we were able to unpack some of that as well. And it was constructive, it was challenging, and it was very worthwhile. So yeah.
So on that element there, and thank you so much for going into that. And I think what I just want to reflect on is a couple of things. So one, in the first part of that, you wanted to quantify to people that whether it was big trauma or little trauma, or there was trauma or anything else like this. And I think this goes along the line with, alcohol, the stigma, addiction, like all of these stigmatized words, is that what happens is a lot of the things that are in the news, a lot of the things that are out there in the world say, oh, well, you're waking up in the morning and putting whiskey on your cornflakes and you're an addict and you have a problem and you need to go and get medical help. And then what people do is say is, well, I'm not that, so therefore I'm okay. And I know guys who would go and have 3 bottles of red at lunch and then come back and work the afternoon, and they do that every single day, and they drink in the evening at home, and they're like, well, I don't, it's, so because they reckon they could stop for a bit and things like that. Now, when it comes to things like trauma, a lot of people are like, well, I don't have any trauma. I didn't have a trauma. Wasn't sexually abused as a kid. I wasn't this. And this is the big thing we help people understand, is that it's not about that, right? It's the fact is really simple, is that childhood is traumatic. We have these things said or done to us, even by Billy in the playground, who says, yeah, you're a big stinky poo, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, that's it. I'm going to decide I'm a big stinky poo for the rest of my life. But it kind of works like that. And so really, we all have this. everybody has these patterns that they're running, these behaviors that they're running, that are based on past life experiences, past things that happened to them. They made decisions about themselves that formed the ego. And this is running your life every day. It's running how you show up in business and how you show up in your relationships and how you show up in your relationship with alcohol. So I think this is one of the things where, you know, not to put any words in your mouth, but what's brought you into the conversation is alcohol, right? And brought you into the piece here. Reality is we're talking about how you live your life, how you show up into everything. So with some tweaks in there, as an example, and I'm not saying this was you, but as an example, you're afraid of winning, or you're not allowed to win, let's say, as your thing. So winning is wrong, but yet you're striving so hard, right, to be successful and a winner. If you have that pattern in your head, I mean, you look at the impact that that's going to have in your life. But then the reverse is true. Like, what happens to a highly driven ENTJ when you remove that barrier, that limiting belief? So I guess into that, now that you've made some of those tweaks and shifts and realizations in there, can you feel that's already made a difference in some areas of your life? And maybe share with me some ideas or things that, looking forward, how you think that might impact you, unlocking that.
Yeah, it has, and there's a lot to unpack there as well. I think on the I think the stigma point you raised is actually a very, very important point, and it does sound cliched. And every graduate of complete control, the first thing they say is it's not about the alcohol. It categorically is not about alcohol. So that's a factor. When you put it in the in the overarching context of your one's being, it's such a minute thing. And to your point as well around, that the person who goes and has, a few bottles at lunchtime, and I don't have a problem with it. I think for anybody listening to this, there's a very interesting kind of point for me that came up was around, that there's a very fine line between what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in society when it comes to alcohol. And I say that from working in the city for 10 years as an executive headhunter and being out at lunchtime every day and being out with customers and clients in the evenings every day. That's perfectly fine. But if you're in apparently it's perfectly fine. But then, I've been in other environments where, that's not acceptable. And then, so it's that the stigma topic, I think, is a really important one for folks to consider. Generally speaking, I think to your point now, like moving forward, like how are things different? For me, I think, I'm, a few weeks out of a few weeks post graduation, shall we say, and I'm 8 days into a new position, and if I look back, if there was alcohol still involved, there would be a lot of anxiety around it. Coming into a new group of people who are all very senior, who are all very seasoned, very professional, and I'm coming into a new environment in its own right is always a little bit angst provoking, for want of a better phrase. But coming into this now, having the clarity and the vision of, well, this is, I don't have any of that anxiety. I have a healthy awareness of I'm a new person in a new environment, and I'm ears open, and let's learn, and let's do what we need to do to get ramped up. But there isn't that underlying sense of negative emotion of, you're probably not going to be successful, are you, really? So and that nonsense has gone away, which is very helpful. And
fit in, and the need to fit in, the need to be strongly validated by others other than yourself or outside of yourself.
Yeah, we had it as well before. Exactly, we had a situation where I met one of the founders, and the topic came up of it was actually a birthday on my first day, and we should all go out and have some drinks, and we should celebrate, and that would normally be one of those very awkward conversations, and it was like, I'd love to go out and spend some time, but I'm not a massive drinker, so hope that's cool. And it wasn't an issue at all. It was great. Whereas before, I'd be really apprehensive about saying that, especially in that type of environment, and there's no apprehension at all. And actually, from having a level of confidence and assertiveness around it, it prompted a very positive response back of a bit of an off the cuff, light-heart remark. But I wish some of the other partners were like that. And And she was on a team call earlier today actually, and there's a couple of sore heads and that, and it was that's great. You go out and have fun and go and enjoy it. I'm not criticizing, but I do very much enjoying the clarity around not having that anxiety that goes with it as well. Yeah.
Completely, absolutely, that's amazing. Well done to you. And what about the tech element? How did you find the technology element in total?
I found it really, really, really helpful. I'm a technologist at heart, working in the technology sector. So, and I'm being an academic lawyer and data focused. Anything that can provide hard data is super helpful. So, using some of the equipment that's provided as part of the program, I found very, very helpful to get. Oh, so this data here shows what you were doing there, and that's how I felt. Then it helped me to correlate. Oh, this is what your body's doing when you feel tired. This is what your body's doing in certain scenarios. So I found for me it was very helpful to help me orientate and kind of. I'm very good at going at things quite hard and working, probably just going a little bit, not knowing when to stop. Perhaps it's one of my challenges.
That central nervous system.
Yeah, and I think as well, here's one of the key points for me, if it's helpful for anybody listening to this. I find getting to my early 40s, I'd like to think I'm at the start of the pinnacle of my career now, and I think that there are life has a level of complexity attached to it, and I think you have to be able to operate at a certain level. I'm not saying I'm the oracle of life or anything. Absolutely not. I'm a normal guy, but I'm striving for success. And I think the question for me coming into the course was, how, as a successful person, do I maintain consistent, continual high levels of performance without these peaks and troughs and these yo-yos of performance? And it's very simple having graduated, but it was very complicated to figure it out. And it's very simple, being able to regulate your system, your life framework, however you want to view it, from a high level, going into your sympathetic and parasympathetic, but making sure you operate within your zone of tolerance. That, as simple as it sounds, was one of the penny drop moments for me. And it sounds really silly, and I don't people will laugh, but I found I'll be working on a project or something needs to be done, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'll keep pushing through. Whereas now I'm able to go, you know what? If I stop now and I sleep and I come back at early tomorrow morning, I'll be more effective when I go at it tomorrow. And you can still attain a higher level of output, but it's almost like learning how to fly the plane, if you will, for want of another analogy. It's almost like going from an airliner to a fighter jet. It's like the subtleties of the controls are more refined, and the bigger the impact of twisting a dial 25 degrees when you're operating at a certain level can have a big impact across everything that you're doing. And it's just I think complete control enabled me with some of the skills to just kind of refine some of those controls there. That's probably one of the best ways I can describe that. A little bit analogous. I appreciate that. So that's how I found it.
The big bit about and this is why we use technology, why we use data, why we use evidence. I mean, it is so compelling. And I think, it's okay because we've got data and things in apps, but because we're not being held accountable to it and being coached around it, like really that concierge service, it's easier to ignore it / roll over it. Whereas very, very hard to ignore it here, because we're going through this journey, you're going through with other participants, you're talking about your data, people are showing some of that, you're seeing the impact of those behaviors and the things that you're doing. And I think that's, for most people, they consider this a very compelling part of the program. And when you talk about the penny dropping, this is the thing, it should be so obvious. But Simon, it's not, okay? 100% of the people who come into this program, we're operating at incredibly high stress. What we really teach them, as you've gone through and understand this very simple math, which is a stressed out central nervous system, which does not get any recovery during the day, will always require numbing in the evening. And you can abstain from alcohol all you want, as you've done previously, but it either turns into something, becomes holding on for sheer willpower. So we've got to address that key stress element. And I say to people right at the beginning, right, this is not about having less stress. This is about becoming a stress eating machine. Because, as well, if you look at the latest research around here, alcohol not only increases cortisol level production, but it increases the production of cortisol over time, right? So over time, you release more of this fight or flight hormone. And that means that your ability to deal with stress diminishes over time. So from regular alcohol consumption. But, you're in your 40s. Would you want more stress? Do you want to be able to handle more stress or less stress, right? Well, you want to be able to handle more stress, but calmly. And so often I speak to people and say, do you have more stress now, or have you sabotaged your ability to deal with stress? And when they kind of flipped back into that, they're like, oh gosh, yeah. I used to be able to handle this stuff like no problem when I was in my 20s. And I'm like, yeah. And this is why you lose your shit after 2 seconds from the kids. And they don't understand that this is a highly dysregulated central nervous system brought on by large production of cortisol, which isn't really significantly emphasized by regularly consuming alcohol. So that's a very long-winded version of saying that some of this stuff that you say the penny drops, there are many, many, many depths of what goes into complete control to get you to drop that penny. Not just the data element, not just that, but the coaching and the realization and these past trauma experiences, things like that. I mean, these past experiences, they inherently bring stress. So what people don't understand again is that ruminating in your head, those anxious thoughts, that blah, 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 that's impactful on your central nervous system. So you enter the day poorly slept, drinking alcohol with a head-screwing brain, right? That's a lot of stress that you're coming into the day with. So no wonder stubbing your toe sends you off the radar. So it's all about finding that calm, being calmer, getting into that better place to make better decisions, better intuition, more informed decisions, calmer decisions, being able to handle situations with great calm. So yeah, fascinating. And so when you overlay this all with the group, right? Obviously we've got communities everywhere in here, but how did you find the group? How did you find the complete control community for you?
It was really great. Obviously the coaches are outstanding. My stablemates and cohort was, I found it very, very helpful because this whole topic can feel quite isolating sometimes. And, you think, you start to go into the internal dialogue of, how, why is this thing a factor? And then it was assuring or reassuring that, it sounds cliched, but you're not alone. As other people do have this challenge as well. So I found the different perspectives from being on a global call with the UK, and there's people in Florida and New York and Australia, all over the place, and it was just a lot of different perspectives all coming together. I found that very, very useful, but I also observed the commonality of it's a similar experience and a similar set of challenges. It doesn't matter where you're at in life or where you're physically located. So I found that very helpful to share some knowledge and some ideas, and to listen to some of the other experiences there as well. And then, on the coaching side of it, to be challenged a little bit, being that ENTJ personality type, and can be fairly set in my thinking structures sometimes, and to have some of those thought processes challenges was very helpful and very constructive, and I really, really did learn a lot. So overall, it was a hugely positive experience, and it would definitely encourage it. So yeah,
amazing. So yeah, well, what overall has been your output from complete control? And then I guess my next question after that is going to be, what's ahead for you? But yeah, overall, if somebody was listening, what would you say to them about your experience on complete control?
I mean, it was a game changer for me, and that sounds like a cliche thing to say, but it genuinely was and is. For me, it was being able to, figure this puzzle out a little bit. I couldn't figure out why I kept getting kind of dragged into the weeds with this thing, and for me, it was just it enabled me with the awareness to solve that puzzle, I think, and that was great. It really is. It's the best. The ripple effect of, they talk about the keystone habit in certain texts around, identify that one thing, that one thread that's going to have the biggest possible positive effect on your whole life experience. That's what this was to me. If I can answer it that way, and looking forwards, from working through the group exercises and, considering what you want the future to look like, I have a clearly defined set of goals and aspirations in all aspects of my life now, and working towards those. And I'm very, very excited about the future, and I feel really positive about everything. So yeah, highly recommended.
Amazing. And I guess, it's not cheap. It's an investment. So from that perspective, what do you think the ROI is for you in reality? Looking forward now, like, what's the difference going to be?
That's a very, very important point, and it's a very good question. And full candor is one of my initial reservations. Was it is it's an investment, and for me, I think when you consider the positive impacts that this will have hopefully for the rest of your life, moving forward, it enables you with a set of tools that will have a positive impact across every facet of your life experience. And for the cost in the context compared to the outcome that you get from it, it's no brainer really. For me personally, it was a no-brainer, but it was something which I did think about, and I did give a lot of thought to, because it's an investment. But for me, I viewed it as an investment to support me and getting me where I want to get to in life, and I'd absolutely do it again. And it's it definitely over-delivered and overachieved on expectations. So yeah.
Woohoo! Good to hear. Thank you, Simon. That is amazing. I guess my other question to you here is, like, as a program, it sort of sits in this place of optimization, health optimization, peak performance, focusing on making improvements in all areas of their life so that alcohol can become less of a feature, or compulsive behavior can become less of a feature. It is a bit of an all-rounder. What do you think of it as a program that should be going into more corporates?
I think it would be, having worked for large corporates through my career, I think it would be an excellent add-on to global and corporate well-being programs. And for me, I view it as it's another tool in my arsenal in the personal development camp, and and it's something which if I need to fall back on it, I can always go. I have that set of tools now to course correct if I ever need to course correct. But I think it would have a massively positive effect on a lot of corporations, and from the individual level up to multinational level. I think it's highly applicable and very relevant. So
thanks. I'm going to send that to everyone. All of my LinkedIn contacts. Head of HR, listen to this.
Yeah.
Great. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on the podcast. Any final thoughts from you? You've shared us with so much, so thank you very much for being a part of the program. Thank you for coming on and wanting to support others. Every single person there are literally hundreds of people right now thinking about doing this program who are either evaluating it, have been on a call with my team, and they're looking for this one message, which this could be the one. This could be the message that gets them to go and do it. And just like you, they're trying to evaluate, the cost versus the thing. And so just want a massive thank you to you for coming on, and hopefully we can encourage a few more people to have the same outcome that you are, which is, a whole set of tools for the rest of your life, as you described, that really we can be preventative. I read yesterday that the rehab industry is $53 billion, and the vast majority of that is return customers. I don't think people should be returning. I think we should be able to steer them away, and for us to be able to avoid people having to go into rehab or having to go into recovery or becoming severe addiction. And I don't know many other programs that are being as successful at that as this is. So
yeah, agreed. No, and to final words on my side, a massive thank you to you and the team. And it's going back to 2017, and it's just had such a positive effect on my life and the people around me. And I just encourage you to keep doing great things. And, in the closing comment is, if anybody is listening to it, I was thinking about this. It's like, if you could imagine being able to kind of lift the blinkers a little bit, just add some clarity to where you want to go in life, this would definitely enable you to do that. And it isn't an anti-alcohol course at all. It's just putting you back in the driving seat of it. And hey, I probably will partake in the future at some point, but just I don't feel the need to do it right now. So just a massive thank you to you and the team. It's been outstanding. So thank you.
Well, that's you, Simon. Thanks for coming on the show.